Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hello, this is our first presentation of construction and materials subject. We want to present our topic that methods of construction. First of all, let me introduce our group members. Wan Rodi Qayyim bin Wan Rashidi F1030, Abid Amjad bin Khairuddin F1048, Aisyah Iliana binti Talib F1036, Tirishala anak perempuan Kainan Naidu F1049, Rabiatul Ashikin binti Muhammad Johari F1051. Let's start our presentation.
What is foundation? Foundation is the main supporting component of any building structure. It is the lowest part of the building which is in contact with soil and transfer all the structural load to soil safely. Without foundation, you might not see skyscrapers in the world. The first function of the foundation is the reduction of load intensity. When the area increases, the pressure will decrease. Similarly, the foundation that serves for the purpose of the transferring the load coming from the superstructure to the largest area below, so that the intensity of the incoming load is minimal at its base. Therefore, this foundation will ensure that the amount of load charged does not exceed the capacity to be charged is safe subsoil below. The second is protection against soil movement. Asas ini juga membantu meminimumkan pembentukan keretakan dan masalah dalam superstructure di atas. Kerana pengembangan alternatif dan pengucupan bawah tanah akibat pergerakan kelembapan di beberapa tanah. Next is lateral stability. Asas ini menambat superstructure di atasnya ke tanah di bawahnya, dengan itu memberikan kestabilan sisi kepada superstructure secara keseluruhan. Oleh itu, asas itu akan meningkatkan kestabilan superstructure gelongsor, terbalik dan lain-lain kerana pelbagai daya sisi. Moreover, the foundation function is the provision of level surfaces. Asas ini memastikan bahawa permukaan yang keras disediakan di mana superstructure boleh dibina dengan mudah. Di sini kita boleh lihat type of foundation. First is pad foundation, second strip foundation, third rough foundation, and last is pile foundation. First, pad foundation. The base of the pad is a rectangular or round pad that is used to support local loads such as columns, such as in the picture. They are more common on larger purpose built structures such as industrial units or other commercial buildings to support large roofed structures. Asas pad adalah asas titik yang mengambil dan menyebarkan beban titik ke tanah dengan selamat. Asas pad lebih disukai jika tanah ditapak mempunyai kekuatan yang mencukupi dan juga tidak terlalu dalam untuk dibina. Second, strip foundation. The strip foundation is one of the most common used foundations. They are usually used for soil where the underground is a good bearing capacity. Strip foundations are designed for structures where the load is relatively modest, such as low to medium rise domestic buildings. Strip foundations are used in many subsoils and are particularly suited to light structural loadings, such as those found in many residential properties, and commonly a mass concrete strip foundation is used. Third, rough foundation. A rough foundation is a continuous slab of concrete, usually covering an area equally to or greater than the base of a building or structure to provide support for walls or lightly loaded columns, and it serves as a base for the ground floor. It is suitable for expensive soil whose bearing capacity is less for the suitably spread footing and wall footings. From sketch of rough foundation, we can see rough or mat foundation spread across broad areas and support loads pulled from columns and walls. This foundation reduces the likelihood of residently settling between loads, which is settling of the structure at different rates in different locations. Rough foundations are comprised of engineering design structural concrete with reinforcing steel and are stability stronger than a base floor slab. Lastly is pile foundation. Pile foundation is underground structures that support a building. Pile are long pillars that extend downwards into the ground to keep the building above them stable. They are typically used in situations where the top layer of soil is weak and unable to hold the weight of the building. A pile is a long vertical load transferring member composed of either timber, steel, or concrete. Okey, kalau kita tengok sketch of pile foundation. Pile foundation are principally used to transfer the loads from the superstructure through weight, compressibility strata or water onto stronger, more compact, less compressible and stiffer soil or rock at depth, increasing the effective size of a foundation and resisting horizontal loads. They are typically used for large structure and in situations where soil is not suitable to prevent excessive settlement.
Hello, my name is Rabiatul Ashikin binti Muhammad Johari, metric number 08DPP21F1051. I will continue of Yana presentation. There are methods of construction for floors. Definition of floor or slab. The term floor slab usually refers to a floor that has been formed using concrete and generally steel reinforcement and may form part of the structure of a building. It may form the floor of a basement at ground level or at upper level. It will be typically reinforced either by rebar or steel fiber and can be either formed on site or prefabricated. A floor that is made of timber or other material is not referred to as a floor slab. Concrete slabs that form the ground floor of a building may be either supported on beams, called a suspended slab, or supported directly on the subsoil via headcore, for example, called a ground-bearing slab. When a concrete slab forms part of the roof construction of a building, it is normally referred to as the roof slab. Function of the ground floor is to provide number 1, a safe and stable platform for the activities that are carried out within the building. Number 2, structural stability. Number 3, thermal insulation. Number 4, exclusion blocking of groundwater. And next, durability. And the last one, provide appropriate surface finish. Classify of the floor construction in solid floor. 3 positions in which the DPM, known as damp-proof membrane, may be located. First, sandwich between the blinding above the hardcore and the concrete slab. Number 2, sandwich between the top of the concrete slab and the screed. Number 3, sandwich between the surface of the slab and the floor finish. There are types of suspended slab. There have suspended timber ground floor and suspended concrete ground floor. Suspended timber ground floor. Timber is warmer to the touch than concrete, then provide increases thermal comfort to the user. There comprises small timber beams or joists which span between points, and joists are sized according to the loads that are to be carried and the distance that are to be spanned. Ventilation is provided by air bricks within the external walls. Ventilation also helps to remove the damp air beneath the floor construction and replace it with drier air from outside. A limitation of air ventilation is allowed to prevent thermal insulation value of the floor will be detrimentally affected. And last one, cross flow of air within the void beneath the timber floor is maintained by building the slipper walls in the honeycomb bond. And have suspended concrete ground floor. Concrete ground floor constructed from in situ concrete similar to a solid floor or from precast concrete component and have depth of fill required. Floor bearing directly onto the ground may not be considered suitable. In situ concrete suspended ground floor incorporates sufficient steel reinforcement in its lower section to enable it to efficiently carry the loads bearing and required support until it has hardened sufficiently to carry its own weight. Necessary to place fill materials onto the ground to provide a firm, dry, level horizontal surface onto which the slab may be cast, and the last one supported by the load-bearing walls. Number 1. Slab beam and grider. The slabs are supported by beams which are in turn supported by griders. See figure 2a. A grider is a large beam that
carry slots from the beams framing into it. Beams around the outside edges of the floor are called spandrel beams. Number 2. Slab band. This is a uniform slab with a thickened slab portion along the column lines parallel to the longer spines. See Figure 2b. Number 3. Flat slab. This is a system without beams, where a slab is supported by round or square columns. See Figure 2c. In this system, the design may also require a flat cone-shaped cap on the top of the column, called the capital, and a thickened slab above it, called the drop panel. Number 4. Flat. This is similar to the flat slab, except that there are no drop panels or capitals, as shown in Figure 2d. Columns are typically of circular or square shape. Next, slab with beams. The beams frame into columns and support floor or roof slabs, as illustrated in Figure 2e. They provide moment interaction with the column. This interaction is essential for the frame to resist lateral loads. Lastly, joist floor are known as span joists. This system consists of a series of closely spaced joists, similar to small beams, spanning in one or two directions, topped by a reinforced concrete slab case integrally with the joist, and beams spanning between the columns perpendicular to the joist. See Figure 2f.
There have the types of floor and their methods of installation. For timber floor, reinforced concrete slab, steel floor, and composite floor.
Timber flooring adds a distinctive touch to a home. It offers durability, attractiveness, and an easy-to-silent flooring surface. Timber flooring is a beautiful and natural product that sets it apart from other floor coverings. It is warmer than tile but more polished than carpeting, and many homeowners choose to install their own timber floors by themselves. Now, new fabrication methods and installation tools and techniques make it easier for a homeowner to install a timber floor. First, we can do nailing down. The most common method for installing timber flooring of any type involves nailing the planks to a plywood subfloor. For those learning how to install timber floor, there's no simpler technique than the nail down technique. Unlike other methods which basically required you to be an amateur carpenter or even a professional carpenter, the nail down method on how to install timber flooring can be accomplished by anyone who can swing a hammer. Special flooring nails are used along with a flooring mallet to prevent splitting in the planks from excess vibration. A method for installing the reinforced concrete floor slabs by butt connection is characterized by that when say floor slab and purlin are fabricated, the 3 until 20 cm of reinforcing bars are extended from their both ends. The extended reinforcing bars at their butt connected ends are welded or hooked together, and the concrete is finally poured to their connection position. Its advantage is high anti-earthquake power. Step 1. You have to make sure joist for length. Make sure you have the right size. Floor joist is the most important part of the installation. Steel floor joists are thick steel and are not easily cut without specialist equipment. Before ordering the steel floor joist, make sure you take accurate measurements. It is highly recommended that you take several measurements along the floor area to ensure accurate length of the steel floor joist. Step 2. You can purchase correct steel floor joists. There are different grades to steel floor joists that give the amount of load they can handle. When ordering the floor joists, make sure that you purchase the joists that are strong enough for your home. Number 3. You can install joist brackets. In order for the steel floor joist to be installed properly, you will need to first install the joist brackets on the leader board. Hold the joist bracket up to the leader board and pre-drill the holes for the bolts. Drive in carriage bolts to secure the joist brackets to the leader board. Continue to install the joist brackets beside each of the wooden joists. Step 4. You can install a steel floor joist. The steel floor joists are going to be heavy. In order to install them without any injury or damage to your home, you will need to have some help carrying them in your home. Also have some hydraulic jacks ready to lift the steel floor joists into position to negate the need to hold them for a long period of time. Line up the first steel floor joist with the joist brackets. Secure the joist to the bracket with the use of nuts and bolts. Tighten the bolts with a ratchet wrench. Step 5. You have to remove wood joist. Once the steel floor joist is installed next to the wood joist, you can remove the old joist. Keep the hydraulic jacks under the steel joist for added support while the wood joist is removed. Step 6. You can continue installing steel floor joists. Following the same installation method, continue to install the individual steel joists. It is important to keep a hydraulic jet under each new joist while you complete the installation process. This will allow the home to settle on the steel joist without causing a lot of stress. Step 7. You can remove jacks to the finish of the installation of the steel floor joist. You will need to wait a few weeks. After 2 or 3 weeks passes, remove the hydraulic jacks slowly to make sure that the house has settled upon the joist. Remove every other jack first, then go back and remove the rest. There are based on the T-beam principle, and they are much lighter than the solid floor system. The blocks are laid in place on the formwork, supported by small concrete wedges, and then the in-situ concrete is poured. Composite floor deck is available in composite slab construction and can be used with composite beams to provide an efficient structural floor system. Floor decks are engineered for composite beam design, and full value share connectors can be used. Composite floor deck construction has become very popular because it combines structural efficiency with speed of construction to offer an economic solution for a wide range of building types, including commercial, industrial, health, or residential building sectors.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello to everyone. My name is Abi Amjad bin Khairuddin, and my matrix numbers is 08DPB21F1048, and I'm from class DPB1A, and I will continue this presentation from my partner from group 2. So I will present about the method of construction for wall. So I have three main point. My first point is the function of wall. Number 2 is the type of wall and its appropriateness, and number 3 is sketch the type of wall. Okay, so before we go through to our first point, so I want to ask you guys, do you know about walls? Walls is the construction element which divides the space into the two space or room, and provides the safety and shelter. And generally, the walls are differentiated as the two type outer walls and inner walls. And outer walls gives an enclosure to the house for shelter, and inner walls help to partition the enclosure into the requirement number of room. Alright, so let's go through to our first point, the function of wall. A wall of a building should be satisfy the following requirements in design and construction to perform its basic function and to have an enhanced life period. So our first point about the function of wall is strength. So a wall should be strong enough to take up the loads, safety due to its own weight, and superimposed loads and lateral pressure such as wind. So number 2 is stability. It should be stable against overturning by lateral force due to wind load and buckling caused by the excessive slenderness. Alright, next is number 3 is weather resistance. All the external walls, whether of loads bearing or panel construction, should provide the adequate resistance to rain, sun and wind penetration. And next is number 4, fire resistance. The walls should offer the sufficient resistance to fire, as they behave as a vertical barrier for spread of fire in the horizontal direction. So the walls should be made of such a material which neither ignite nor allow the spread of the fire through them. Okay, next is number 5, heat insulation. It should be possible for walls to attain insulation against heat. For this, the walls are made either thicker or cavity walls construction is employed, and the heat insulating materials are also used in the construction of wall. So next is number 6, sound insulation. The walls, both load-bearing and non-load-bearing, should be made of such the materials and such by such a technique, cavity walls construction, so as to insulate the building against the indoor and outdoor noises. And the last one is number 7, privacy and security. The walls, particularly external walls, should also provide the sufficient privacy and afford the security against the burglary. Alright, let's go through to our second point, the type of wall and its appropriateness. So number 1 is load-bearing wall. Load-bearing wall carries loads imposed on it from beams and slabs above, including its own weight, and transfer it to the foundation. So these walls supports structural member such as beams, slabs and walls on above floors, and it can be exterior wall or interior wall, and it also braces from the roof to the floor. And number 2 is non-load bearing wall. Non-load bearing wall only carry their own weight and does not support any structural members such as beams and slabs. And this was just used as the partition walls or to separate rooms from outside. It is known as interior wall because does not carry other load than its own load. Okay, next, number 3 is cavity wall. Cavity wall is constructed in the two leaves, or we call it skin with a space or cavity between them, and a type of a building wall construction consisting of an outer wall fastenated into inner wall separated by a space. And cavity walls helps to prevent the penetration of rain to the internal surfaces of the wall, and it also to ensure that the inner leaf of the wall remain dry and that no moisture penetrates to the inside of the building. Okay, so next is number 4, shear wall. Shear wall, a frame wall designed to resist the lateral force, and it is a vertical element of the horizontal force resisting system, and it is used to resist wind and earthquake loading on a building. And it is typically a wood frame stud walls covered with a structural seating materials like plywood, and it also carry the wind load, and then it should also be designed to resist the wind load, and this load also get transferred to the foundation of the shear wall. So next is number 5, infill wall. Infill wall is a form of cladding built between the structural members of a building, and the structural frame provides supports for the cladding system, and the cladding provides separation of the internal and external environments. Infill walling is different to other forms of cladding panel in that it is fixed between the framing members rather than being attached to the outside of the frame. And traditionally, infill panel was used as the brick, masonry or timber. And they are function of the infill walls self-supporting between structural framing members, provide weather resistance, provide thermal and sound insulation, and provide fire resistance. Next is provide sufficient opening for natural ventilation and glazing, and can accommodate differential movements between themselves and the frame. Okay, next, number 6, curtain wall. Curtain wall system is a thin and lightweight, and usually using aluminium and glass. And these walls are not the structural, and by design they are only able to carry their own weight while transferring the load of wind and gravity to the structure of the building. And the design make it air and water resistant, and to ensure that the interior of the building remain airtight. And number 7 is partition wall. Partition wall is an interior non-load bearing wall to divide the larger space into the smaller space. And the height of a partition wall depends on the use, which may be 1 story or part of 1 story. And this walls are made up of glass, fiberboard or brick masonry. So next, let's go through to our last point, sketch the type of wall. So for load bearing wall, okay, jadi daripada gambar yang saya kongsikan sini, terdapat lihat terdapat bebanan daripada roof rafter. Okay, daripada roof rafter. Jadi bebanan dari roof rafter ini akan turun ke ceiling joist. Okay, jadi seterusnya bebanan tersebut akan dialihkan ke bearing wall. Jadi bearing wall ini fungsi dia akan menampung bebanan daripada roof rafter dan ceiling joist tersebut. Okey, jadi seterusnya bebanan tersebut akan dialihkan ke foundation atau footing untuk dari rumah tersebut. Jadi inilah fungsi yang kita dapat lihat daripada gambar tersebut, fungsi load bearing wall. Next we have shear wall. Jadi untuk gambar yang saya kongsikan ini terdapat lihat ada beberapa elemen yang diperlukan untuk membina shear wall ini. Di antaranya ialah vertical stud, seterusnya wood structural panel daripada plywood. Jadi daripada gambaran ini, fungsi dia ialah apabila terdapat bebanan atau tekanan daripada gempa bumi atau angin, jadi bebanan tersebut akan dialihkan dari shear wall dan seterusnya pergi ke foundation daripada shear wall itu sendiri. Okey, jadi ia lagi mengukuhkanlah jika bangunan tersebut ingin meletakkan shear wall. Okey. So next we have infill wall. Jadi daripada gambar yang saya kongsikan ini, kita dapat lihatlah material yang digunakan untuk membina infill wall. Okay, dia ada 2 layer of plasterboard, 1 layer vapor check dan fire resistant board, dan seterusnya ada seating board dan ada brick internal cladding. Dan di antara seating board dengan 2 layer plasterboard tadi tu diletakkan leg steel stud with mineral wool. Okey, dan infill wall ini diletakkan di antara structural frame, iaitu frame bangunan tersebut. Okey, jadi bebanan daripada lantai dan bumbung tersebut akan transfer, akan pergi ke structure frame tersebut dan akhirnya turun ke foundation, ke bangunan itu sendiri. Dan inilah rupa bentuk infill wall. Okay, next we have cavity wall. Jadi mengikut gambar yang saya kongsikan ini, inilah rupa bentuk antara rupa bentuk cavity wall. Okay, dia dua dinding yang ada ruang udara di tengah-tengah dia. Baiklah, apa fungsi ruang udara tersebut? Okay, ruang udara tersebut kita nak kita nak letakkan foam untuk cavity wall insulation. Jadi cara dia, dekat face brick tu kita buatkan lubang kecil dalam 25mm. Lepas tu kita masukkanlah dia punya shallow foam tu dan kita spray lah dekat ruang di antara dua dinding tu. Okay, ikut kuantiti dia lah, ikut kuantiti yang tertentu. Jadi functionnya foam ni, apabila dia hujan dan terkena kepada dinding antara dua dinding ni, jika ada joint di antara batu, di antara brick yang bocor dan air hujan tu masuk ke dalam, tembus melalui dinding face brick tu, jadi foam ni akan menyerap air hujan tersebut. Jadi ruang di antara dua dinding ini akan sentiasa kering lah. Jadi itulah fungsi cavity wall. So next we have certain wall. Jadi gambar saya kongsikan ini adalah rupa certain wall daripada bangunan-bangunan seperti company atau bangunan-bangunan yang biasa kita nampak dekat Malaysia ni. Jadi certain wall ni dia menggunakan bahan daripada material daripada glass dan aluminium, dan certain wall ni dia akan menjadikan bangunan tersebut kalis air dan kalis udara. Jadi itulah fungsi certain wall. And lastly we have partition wall. Jadi mengikut gambar yang saya kongsikan ini, partition wall ini berfungsi sebagai pembahagian ruang di dalam bangunan atau bilik. Sekiranya kalau kita ada ruang yang besar dalam bangunan, kita nak kecilkan dia, kita boleh menggunakan partition wall. Dan partition wall ini didatang dengan pelbagai bentuk ada yang menggunakan material timber, ada yang menggunakan brick, dan ada yang menggunakan glass, dan menggunakan glass untuk membagikan ruang seperti pejabat. Jadi inilah fungsi partition wall. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Function of roof. A roof is a structure forming the upper covering of a building or other shelter. Its primary purpose is generally to provide protection from the elements, but it may also contribute to safety, security, privacy, insulation, and so on. A roof is an essential covering that is placed on houses, on buildings, and even such items as automobiles. For homes and buildings, especially a roof performs multiple functions, all of which are tied into providing protection. Different elements and parts of the roof provide protection to the structure's interior and exterior. Human protection. The basic purpose of any roof is to provide protection to persons inside a structure from the elements. This purpose is necessary in every part of the world as the roof provides shelter against something as basic as bright sunshine. Add to that other changes in weather such as rain, snow, sleet, hail, and high winds. Water protection. The exterior of a structure is also served by the presence of certain elements of a roof. Roof flashing is designed to protect exterior walls from water damage. Also, the gutters and downspouts on the edges of the roof provide a means to carry away the water that drains off the roof and divert it from the exterior walls and base of the structure. Types of roof, which is flat, bird or build-up roofs, modified bitumen roofing, ethylene propylene Dane monomer rubber roof, spray polyurethane foam roof, thermoplastic membranes, PVC or TPO. Types of pitched roofs, double pitch roof, collar beam roof, couple closed roof, slant roof, purlin roof, king post roof. Methods of roof construction for flat roofs. The basic construction of a flat roof starts with roofing timber that is laid across two upright items, usually two walls. For additional stability, you can also use steel joists that are built into one or both of the walls. This will give additional stability to the roof structure. Then this roofing timber will be placed on top of the steel joists which are built into the walls. In some cases it is actually cut into steel, but in most cases it will be simply laid on top of the steel joists. You can often consult an online chart to find the optimal distance based on the width and span of the roof. Generally speaking, the bigger the roof, the more joists you will need to hold up the roof. You will then add a plywood covering over the joists, what some home professionals refer to as decking. Again, the width of decking will depend on a number of factors that will impact how sturdy the roof is. You want enough to protect the structure but not too much weight. You will also need a frame for a slight incline. The next step is to think about weatherproofing or waterproofing the boards that are laid across the joists. The classic option is EPDM rubber or a combination of rubber with felt or fiberglass. This is used to cover the boards and make them waterproof. With some sealant, you can create a very safe covering. You can find more details in a flat roof construction manual. One classic approach is to use what is known as a tongue and groove fitting, in which a slide cut out in one joist is placed into the other. This helps to secure them closely together, almost as if they are locked together. Methods of roof construction for pitched roof. There are a couple of different methods for constructing pitched style roof. One pitched roof construction method is a cut roof method. This is more of a traditional manner in regards to cutting the timber while on site and building up the roof by the use of rafters, ridge boards, joists, and purlins among others. This can be determined by the size of the timbers and the size of the roof. In this method, there are joists and rafters. Joists are more important because they prevent the outward spread of the rafters and also give important support to the ceiling below the area. Rafters are another important piece of this type of roof construction. They are nailed to a wall plate at the top of each supporting wall. Their length is determined by the length of the wall plate to the ridge. The rafters have triangular sections. They are cut out of them in order to fit nicely on the wall plate. The top of the rafter will then be cut at an angle and nailed to the ridge board. Another section of this type of roof construction is purlins as well as the associated struts. These are used in order to offer extra supports for the rafters, adding strength to the roof. The purlins are found at right angles in respect to the rafters, and associated struts are found every fourth rafter, which attaches the joists to above a supporting wall. Then there are hangers that are found at right angles to the joists, which help keep the ceiling held up. Collars are located further down the rafters and offer extra binding between rafters to help keep the roof strong. Another pitched roof construction manner is the truss roof method. This type of construction involves the use of factory-made frames called trusses. Each of these trusses includes combining the joists, a rafter, and the struts. These are each made with the exact position of the roof structure and are created by using butt-jointed timber lengths that are nailed together using plate fastenings. These are usually bolted together and they also are mortised and tenoned and then packed afterwards. They are designed to create part of the entire roof structure, which is why they should not be altered in any way unless consulting an engineer to ensure that the structure is not compromised by these changes. First of all, there are many details to pitched roof types that can make construction more complex. There are ridges, eaves, hips, abutments, and the center line of the ridge. Ridges and hips and valleys are the corner or joint areas that are located where the roof will change direction. The edges of the roof are comprised by the verges, abutments, and eaves. Eaves refers to the horizontal joints that are located between a roof and a wall. This is different from a verge, which is the angle joint found between a roof and a gable wall. There are also different types of trussed roof frame, including scissor frames, room in attic, clerestory, and the triple hole.
Let's continue about this presentation. I will talk about 5.5, that is environmental sustainability elements in terms of sustainable energy, carbon emissions, and waste dumping. Before I get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Wan Raidi Kayim bin Waroshidi and my number matrix is 08DPB21F1030 and I from class DPB1A. I hope you will get something from this presentation. Renewable energy. Renewable energy sources are essential to sustainable energy as they generally strengthen energy security and emit far away greenhouse gas than fossil fuels. Renewable energy projects sometimes face significant sustainability concerns such as risk to biodiversity when areas of high ecological value are converted to bioenergy production or wind or solar farms. Direct carbon emissions come from sources that are directly from the site that is producing a product or delivering a service. An example for the industry will be the emissions related to burning a gas burning on site. On the individual level, emissions from personal vessel or gas burning stoves. Waste dumping or environmental dumping is the practice of transfrontier shipment of waste. For example, household waste, industrial or nuclear waste, from one country to another country. The goal is to take the waste to a country that has less strict environmental laws or environmental laws that are not strictly enforced. The economic benefit of this practice is to cheap disposal or recycling waste without the economic regulation of the original country. For the next, elements mentioned in building construction for the three terms that sustainable energy, carbon emissions, and waste dumping. Carbon emissions. A carbon emission is the total greenhouse gas, that is GHG, emissions caused by an individual, event, organization, service, place, or product expressed as carbon dioxide equivalent. Greenhouse gas, including the carbon containing gases, through the gases carbon dioxide and methane can be emitted through the burning of fossil fuels, land clearance, and the production and consumption of food and manufactured goods, materials, wood, roads, building, transportation, and other service. Carbon emissions account as follows. For the first one is embodied energy. It is the amount of energy utilized for constructing the structure. For the second one is operational energy. Refers to the amount of the energy required for functioning the house. Will be share to you guys about the strategy to avoid the carbon emissions. For the first one is the use green technology as well as green lifestyle practice. The main purpose of green technology is to slow global warming and reduce the greenhouse effect. For the second one is sharing vehicle or using public transport to reduce carbon emissions. For the third one is control through insulation is that the most of the buildings that require mechanical ventilation tend to have a heavy carbon emission. So, insulation can restrict internal thermal loss to the exterior environment. It saves energy and reduces the carbon emission. Simple construction detail and building original can control thermal loss and save on heavy bills. During the construction phase, it is advisable to place heavy machinery insulate from heat environments to ensure efficient working. Installing machinery that dissipated heat in heat environments can reduce workability. This is a strategy to avoid the waste dumping. The three R's in waste management. The three R that stands for recycle, reduce, and reuse. For the first one, as a last resort, there is recycling. If you need to dispose of something, then recycling is known to be the most environmentally friendly method of waste disposal. Recycling at the household or business level means discarding materials such as cardboard, plastic, glass, and aluminium that are separate from each other. Recycling is one of the most effective ways to reduce waste in building construction. Second one is reduce. Reduce stands for reducing what is being processing and being aware what it is used in need and what you want in building construction. This goes together with refusing. What also helps is processing products of the best quality because they will last longer and will reduce the times you need to process that product. Also, maintaining the products and materials you have to make them last longer. Third one is reuse. Before throwing something away and replacing it with a new one, top officials in building construction and business are advised to see first whether they can reuse or repair it. This can happen with, for example, device, high-tech construction tools. Employers can encourage employees to reuse items, limiting the numbers of tools produced while saving money. Reuse also includes donating or selling used products instead of throwing them away. Also, buying used product yourself is a way to reuse other people's stuff. For the end, I and my team wish thank you for enjoying our video. I hope you guys will get something new from this video. So, have a nice day and Assalamualaikum.